Hello, sunshine bunnies. How are you? It is me, Kirsten. This is the It's Giving Mystical podcast. This is your mini reading for the week ahead, the week of July 21st. Checking in on your King of Wands. Did you do anything unhinged? Did you kind of like, did you run for the hills in some parameter, some part of your life? Did you break all the rules or did you hold yourself back? Oh, such interesting energy. Such interesting energy, this tension between freedom and responsibility. Yeah, we could talk about that for a hot minute, but just kind of sitting with whatever your week was like, taking a minute to reflect on whether you fed your soul as well as nurtured your responsibilities. That's kind of the key question with the King of Wands. And it's important that we nurture our fire. It's just so, so important. Your light is so precious and so unique, and the world is, at a loss if you're not willing to show it, shine it. The world loses out. Everyone loses out, and most importantly, you lose out. This is a precious, very short, very brief little trip we have here on Earth in this incarnation. Enjoy it. Let that fire burn, baby. For this week ahead, we have the Nine of Swords. And you've heard me say it before, there are no good cards, there are no bad cards, but the Nine of Swords is a very difficult card. The phrase for this card is the dark night of the soul. I'll just rewind to the July forecast, to the July energy that we're in. We are in a moment where the mental body will fail us, where the mental body is challenged, where the mental body is running up against its edges. We are running up against that edge of we don't know what we don't know. And our brain, the beautiful, magical, mystical computer that it is, it can only work with what we allow to input it. When we run up on the edges, that can be painful, but it's also this moment where we seek other input, ideally. We seek other input, and that expands what's possible, that expands our projections, our narrations, our cognitive functioning about what is actually possible in the world around us. So uncomfortable, yes. For you, for your growth, for your expansion, also yes. Nines are the three of the three, right? So there's something about nine that is the end of the suit, is the completion of the suit. And we've talked about how we have 10 anyway. But the nine is kind of the completion of that run from ace to nine, 0 to 9. 9 is the end. 9 is completion. 9 is endings. The 9 in the tarot always brings us to some culmination, some fullness around the suit in question. The suit in question is the sword suit. It is air energy. It's our thinking, our mental body, our stories, our words, our language. The Nine of Swords is a lot of mental energy. You really, really, really want to think about this kind of elementally. Like if there's just a lot of air energy, what does that do? Well, it's very distracting, it's very ungrounding, and it has this constant flow. Air energy does not stagnate. It doesn't often stagnate. It usually comes with some kind of circulation, some kind of movement to it. And actually, if we think about what the weather's been like these past month or so, when the weather does stagnate, how uncomfortable that is. When air stops moving, how uncomfortable that is. So the Nine of Swords is this moment where there's just a lot of air energy in your field, and you can just feel that ungrounds you, that kind of can dim your fire. It can blow out your fire. It can mess with your flame. It can stir the water in a way that's uncomfortable. It can stir your emotions in a way that's uncomfortable. So air has this, very light touch and yet very profound impact on all of the other elements, on all of the energy around us. Nine of Swords is difficult. Nine of Swords is that feeling of waking up in the middle of the night being like, fuck. Either fuck, what am I gonna do? Or fuck, why can't I let go of this thing? Why am I gnawing on this thought, this story, this anxiety like a dog with a bone? In a Nine of Swords week, prepare for that. Set yourself up for that in a way that says, I am going to nourish myself. I'm going to take my time. I am going to remember the tools that work for me when my air element is out of balance. I am going to remember the tools that work for me when fear takes hold of my thoughts, when anxiety takes hold of my thoughts, when my thoughts kind of yank me down into this either stagnant place or way overly active place, right? Kind of the depressive tendencies or the anxious tendencies. Or if we're lucky, we get both. So that's the Nine of Swords energy. It's not easy. Let's talk about this though. If we know this is coming, if this is something that's going to be with us this week, what are we going to do with that? What are we going to do with that? We have some options, right? We have some options in terms of what I just said and reviewing the tools that have worked for us in the past. We have some options to not up the anxiety, so paying attention to the people, the places, the activities that we're engaging in. Are these things that ramp up our mental energy in a way that's not healthy, or are these places that soothe our mental energy? And you can just think about it, right? Like for me, nature, you go out to nature, you feel the trees, you feel the earth, you feel the water, you feel the ocean if you're lucky enough, or like some other waters you can bathe in. And it just reminds you of your vastness. It reminds you of the universe's vastness. It reminds you of the divine's vastness. And with that, there is just like the deep sigh of, all right, here we go. Here we are, and we will be again, and we will be again, and we will be again. And nothing is staying still. And our worries, which is another thing to remind yourself of in a 9 of Swords week, our worries are not necessarily the things that actually harm us. Like we spend a lot of time kind of self-stabbing ourselves, with self-wounding ourselves with our worries. But life doesn't always bring that. Like the things that really shake us are not the things that we've kind of anticipated and gnawed on. Worrying is like kind of generating energy around the thing that you actually don't want. And then the truth of the matter is those things seldom come to fruition. Those are not the things that kind of disarm us. The things that disarm us are the things, unfortunately, that we don't see coming. The parts of life that are more sudden, more shocking, we can't necessarily anticipate and worry for. Worry usually comes from some historical reference, some family reference, some ancestral reference, some life experience reference, some past life experience reference. We're usually holding the energetics of this thing that happened before, and we're kind of carrying it with us into the future. Which brings me to something I think is important to talk about during a 9 of Swords week, is this concept of sorcery, this concept of, particularly of self-sorcery. When I first started studying in this realm, the idea of sorcery was something, if you know me, it's not something I really get anxious about, although maybe I should pay more attention to it in some aspects. But I feel pretty safe in the world. I feel pretty embodied in the world. I feel very protected in my life. And sorcery, what I've learned about it, the way I've worked with it, is that the most dangerous sorcery are the stories we tell ourselves, are the curses, the spells that we cast around our own hearts, we cast around our own lives. That's something to consider this week. You can read a lot about protecting your energy and about, from other people, about cutting cords, about repelling negative energy, the evil eye energy, right? And yet, like the call is coming from inside the house. Like the call is coming from inside the house. Most of the things that really debilitate us are the sorcery that we've practiced on ourselves, the narratives, the frameworks, the projections, the perspectives that we have locked into our experience of the world. Think about that for a second. Notice 2 things. Notice that we are our greatest challenge, and notice that we have so much power to change that. I wonder which you find more challenging, because both are, right? This goes back to what we said, like if you really knew how powerful you were, what would you do differently? If you really realize that so much of the things that bind you, constrict you, trap you in your life are generated from inside. The call is coming from inside the house. I like, you know what I'm talking about, right? That horror movie concept of like the thing you're most afraid of, the thing that is causing you the most harm and danger, is actually coming from inside the house. Listen, that takes a shit ton, excuse my language, of responsibility to own up to that and to say, instead of saying, if that person would behave differently, if this circumstance would behave differently, if only they would just, then I would be okay. The day that comes where you realize you have to take responsibility for that. And all of the storytelling and all of the projection, all of the finger pointing is distraction. It's true. It's not easy. And I am like as human as the rest of us in it, but I also know it's true. So the 9 of Swords week is a week for you to really see the way that you wound yourself, the way that you are the one generating the energy that's keeping you up at night. That's harsh, man. I understand, even as I'm saying that some people are going to be like, I don't want to hear that. I don't want to deal with that, hear that, understand that. But what I say to you is on the other side of that realization, on the other side of those reflections, is all of your power and is the whole miraculous universe waiting to meet you. I want you to imagine that every barrier you put up, every barb you turn your way, is a self-defense mechanism keeping you from love, keeping you from the enfolding, all-embracing energy of the divine, of the sacred, of the universe, of this miraculous world we live in. Does it suck to realize that you've been the one that kept you away from that? Yes. Is it such a human experience? Yes. Is it what we've been taught being good is, or 1,000 things, like not taking up too much space, not asking for more? Like, it all plays into this like scarcity mindset. It all plays into the sense of the universe being this limited thing, and that's just not what it is. I've seen images of the unfolding universe, and the energy is that the more love we pour into it, the more there is available. Like, it just there's some kind of sacred geometry to the way that the universe extends itself and keeps expanding outward. That's played up. You hear about that in quantum physics. We hear about that in the idea of the ever-expanding universe. The energy just keeps generating more. There is no limit. I'm kind of winding around a lot of things, but I hope this is kind of putting some thought in your mind about when I find myself up in the middle of the night, when I find myself stuck in fear, I have the power to change that. I have the power to seek what's underneath that, to seek what's behind that, to kind of lift the barb out of my skin and examine it and say, like, wow, man, I've been carrying this for a long time. This was what I thought truth was, and I was mistaken. That takes great humility, but I promise you on the other side of that is your freedom and your liberation and more love. Reviewing that July is a time where our mental body is going to find itself hitting the edges. It's going to find itself bumping up against the edges of what we've known. That is a good thing. It might not be comfortable. It actually might be painful. And I promise you it's okay. I promise you it is part of the unfolding, part of your evolution, part of you beginning to trust a wider world than the one that your brain can comprehend. I want you to really feel this energy of your whole being is in the world. It's not just your brain. Your whole being is here in the world. And the stories that we tell that keep us in stasis, that keep us still, that keep us small, are the most dangerous things we'll face, the most challenging things we'll face. So when the Nine of Swords comes, you get really intentional about the environments you're allowing yourself to be in, about the energies you're allowing to come into your space. You want to make sure your boundaries are really clear around nourishing spaces. And if you can't be in a place that feels nourishing and safe, or around people who feel nourishing and safe during a Nine of Swords week, there's two things. One, that's when you protect your energy. That's when you kind of cushion yourself and protect yourself and envelop yourself with spaciousness so that you can feel yourself regardless of what stories are kind of passing through the air around you. And two, if you are triggered, if it does kind of poke the bear, pay attention. What is it? Like, what is the thing that is actually being offended? What is the idea or the belief or the story or the sense of self, sense of small self that needs to be protected, that is actually under attack? Because the big self, the divine self, the spiritual self, it can't be attacked, right? It's limitless and omnipotent and so vast and expansive. So when we feel, and I'm having this experience in my own life, there's this thing I'm dealing with where like I keep getting kind of like dialed back into fear, and I keep having to sit with myself and say like, okay, what is this? What is this thing that's being activated? And then I have to dial myself into a larger perspective of you're okay. But when you're in it, it's like, I'm not okay. I'm not okay, and I'll never be okay again. And the Nine of Swords is that energy. And so what do you do in those situations? I will share a practice here with you that for me, and I shared it actually this past weekend, I think this is a practice that I wish everyone was aware of. And I wish everybody would just try, because it's one of those things I can say it and you're like, yeah. And you try it and it will change your life. I promise you it will change your life. The practice is called recording and listening. It's developed by Cheryl Huber, who is a monk. She's written a bunch of different books. She's brilliant and easy to understand and generous with her teachings. And she has a free website where you can get all kinds of prompts and information about this technique called recording and listening. Here is the technique. You take in your hand, your phone or any recording device in your right hand, and you turn it on and you record everything you have to say. It's never going to be okay. I'm always going to feel like this. Life is shit. What the fuck? I'm dying. It's over. I'm trapped. No one loves me. Whatever the thing is, you just like kind of spill out the whole story. Get as detailed as you want. Like nothing is off the table. Whatever you want to say. End it. Pause. Breathe. Switch the recorder to your left hand. Play it back and listen from that place without even being conscious of it. Your who's listening will shift. You'll see. You listen. When you're done, complete, end it, turn the recorder back on and respond. Answer the letter you just received, the missive you just received. When you're complete, turn that off and then put the recorder down and listen back to what your answer is. You will blow your mind. The larger you will respond, will hold the smaller you, will have perspective and guidance and compassion and, again, perspective that you will be really surprised at. It is a brilliant practice anytime. It is a particularly important practice during a 9 of Swords week. And I tell you, in my darkest moments, this is the practice that I turn to. This is the practice I turn to when I really feel helpless and disabled. So I offer it to you. Cheryl Huber offers it to you. The best practices are often the free ones. So you can get caught up in like buying all the tools, and that's beautiful. It doesn't mean we shouldn't live a sensual, beautiful, inspired life. And in a 9 of Swords week, we're looking for clarity, we're looking for perspective, and we're looking for peace. We're looking for love and peace. So it's not easy. I'm not going to claim that a 9 of Swords week is easy, but it's a little bit easier knowing that if you do wake up in the middle of the night, if you do find yourself cycling, if you do find yourself in a low point, that you realize it will pass. You realize you have the capacity to hold yourself in that. You realize that it actually might be showing you something really specific. That's the other thing, right? Like go where the energy takes you. So if you're triggered, if you're anxious, if you're struggling, dive into it, dive under it, feel around it, feel the backside of it, touch it with your hands and your heart and your body, and just get a sense of what is this thing and what is it trying to teach me. One of the core tenets of hypnosis and a lot of other therapies is that everything has a positive intention. So the part of us, I'll say that again, everything, your worst behaviors, the worst things you've ever done, underneath them, you're trying to achieve something. You're trying to achieve safety or love or to be seen or to feel worthy. Like you're trying to get something good. I promise you that is true. The behaviors you put around that, the narratives you put around that, the nasty judgments you put around that, that's the human part. That's the wounded part of us. And when we're in a moment where we're in it and we're just kind of so tight and tangled, I promise you the invitation to go under it, to dive into it, will reward really beautiful results. The blessing of the 9 of Swords is that it shows you the traps you've built for yourself. It shows you the stories you've trapped yourself in. It shows you the self-sorcery you've been engaging in for who knows how long. And it says to you, you don't have to do this anymore. You don't have to do this anymore. That's the gift. And it's not easy, but July, we never said July was going to be easy. July is this sacred alchemy, sacred mystery. And we don't live that way. So that's challenging. And it seems like something about this week ahead, the challenge is going to come to a head. The other energy I feel is a little bit of stagnation. If you get yourself stuck and bound, what are the tools you use? I recommend recording and listening. I recommend journaling. I recommend any kind of expression, word deconstruction, if that's a practice that is part of your vocabulary, or if you have a shaman, someone who studies shamanic work that can work with you in that. This idea of feeling the energy underneath our words and our thoughts and getting into the soil of it, digging into the soil of it to see where are the roots? Where do the roots live? That's just going to be, it's supremely liberating. So is the work fun? No. Is the amount of energy and freedom and liberation and love available on the other side of the energy worth every sense of struggle, every bit of struggle? 1,000%, 1,000% over and over. On the other side of a 9 of Swords week, you have such compassion for yourself, and you, in a similar way of devil energy, this is actually can be harder than devil energy, but on the other side of it, you realize these tangles you've put yourself in, and you realize that there are other ways to be. There are wider ways to be. There are more loving and compassionate ways to be. And that you are held, that you are held, you are held, you are held. You're not doing this alone. Nine of Swords can convince us otherwise. That's a lot to say on that, but it's intense energy. And my whole reason for being in this podcast with you, in this space with you, is to say you're not alone, to say I promise you there is a way through, to say to you that there is more love, more freedom, more spaciousness, more breath, more compassion, more peace available to you. And I know that in the deepest parts of my bones. So if I can share a little bit more of that with you today, then I hope I was able to do that. And I'm here. I know a lot of you. So you text me if you're struggling. You're not alone. I got you, baby. I got you. The universe has you. Your higher self has you. Your ancestors have you. The earth has you. The universe has you. The divine has you. And, really, truly, you have you. And that is the most important thing. You are trustable, and you are powerful, and you are brave. You'll feel that this week. Sending you so much love, and just wrapping my arms around each one of you. And just know that, again, you're not alone, and you got this. And on the other side of this is more you, more living, more life. With you, with you, with you. Big hug. Bye. It's giving everything is sacred. It's giving art. It's giving light you up and turn you on and set you free. It's giving curiosity. It's giving freedom. It's giving love. It's giving you are more magical and powerful than you can comprehend. It's giving, I don't know what's happening, but I am so here for it. It's giving you are pure potential. It's giving mystical.